What is going on, guys? It is Lando from the Snap coming at you with the Week 10 live start set where we answer every single question. I am joined by producer Scott. Mack was unavailable today, so I am happy to have a co-host here. Scotty, how you doing, my friend?
It's a lovely, lovely Sunday with some early morning football coming out of Germany. Hit my parlays, and you know what? Didn't get destroyed by Stevenson there for New England. So
Not yet,
10 points.
anyways.
I can weather that. I think.
Yeah. I hope everyone has a lovely morning. We're watching, the last German game or last game overseas of the season. So it's, I don't know how I feel about it, Scotty. Like, it's nice to have football in the morning, but it'll be nice to also get it back to the 1 p.m. start games. What do you think?
Oh, I'm all for it. I love coffee football.
Yeah, the
You
games
know,
have not
until
been
until you have it, you're like you don't know you really want it, and then when you
right.
start experiencing Sunday morning like coffee in hand, pregame at 9, and you're like, yeah, this really is football all day.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. If you have a little daughter at home, and I don't know what your obligations are on Sunday, but my partner knows that I'm pretty much unavailable from kickoff till the last second of the Sunday night games. So when it's 9:30 a.m. till midnight, it's kind of a big commitment.
Yeah, well, once you have a newborn, you're falling asleep by like 9 p.m. unless it's the most thrilling Sunday night football game of all time. So
Right.
you're more alert in the morning, and you're in bed by like 9:30, even if you really cared. So
Well, I do want to welcome everyone in. Make sure to like this video, smash that subscribe button, share with your friends. I do very much appreciate everyone coming in and supporting us every single week. We have Paz coming in from Brazil. We have some world travelers as our viewers here. So shout out to Paz that's in Brazil. Let me know where y'all are today. If you're watching from home or you're out and about, maybe you're doing some early morning grocery shopping before kickoff. Let me know what y'all are doing. Scotty and I are going to go over the news and notes from this week. And the big one being is Jahmyr Chase is expected to be active this week. Um, it was really unsure. We have T. Higgins were declared out, Scott. So the Bengals really do need him. I mean, they play the Texans, so it's not a difficult matchup. But we saw last week the Texans threw for a bunch of yards, and it's going to be an interesting matchup. What are your thoughts on Jahmyr Chase? Should you start him no matter what because of the name value and the opportunities now? Or are you a little bit tentative? Are you going to sit him for, maybe some good options like a Tank Dell who had a big match or a big game last week in the same matchup with Deontay Johnson, Deebo Samuel back. What are your thoughts on Jahmyr Chase? Is he a start no matter what?
I still think Jamar Chase is, a start nearly almost no matter what. I mean, that other receivers are unavailable. 7-Eleven. If he's going to be open, he's going to get the ball. He's going to get you the points. And yeah, it's the Houston Texans, but these aren't your grandfather's Houston Texans. They put on a show. They kind of have been putting on a show. They're not. The New England Patriots are staring down 2-8, and the Texans are looking like a pretty potent offense once they've got everything rolling here. So there's no guarantee that Cincinnati is just going to steamroll them and go into some sort of run out the clock situation. There could be a little back and forth here. I still think Cincinnati is obviously going to win, but I think there's going to be lots of opportunity for Chase to get his normal fantasy points. So if I had him, I'd still be rolling him out.
Yeah, I agree. I think he should be a, top 5 consideration this week. It's Jahmyr Chase. If he's going to be active, he's going to get the full complement of snaps. There is obviously some risk level involved, so we'll see if we get any Jahmyr Chase questions this week. But for the most part, I agree with you, Scotty. We're gonna start him with some confidence. Another guy who is back and active this week is Deebo Samuel. I actually just traded for him in our big 16-team league, Scotty. What are your thoughts on Deebo coming back? The Niners seem to have needed him when he was out. They have lost every single game. So I don't know the correlation, but I mean, it's nice to have all your weapons back for Brock Purdy owners. But what does this do to, I guess, your Brandon Ayuk's, your Christian McCaffrey's? Do you start Deebo Samuel's first week back, or are you going to wait and see?
I'm rolling out Deebo Samuel as well. As you pointed out, people like to make comparisons to Kenny Pickett. Here's Brock Purdy with him, and here's him without him. Like, it's the same thing, which is not fair. But I am a Brock Purdy owner, and I'm starting him this week. I mean, obviously, I don't think it really affects CMC because week in, week out, he just finds ways to score. He's the smartest bet you've got in football. To score every week, basically. But yeah, I'd roll him out with confidence, and they're not the same team without him. So I think they're excited to have him back, and they'll probably be targeting him early.
Yeah, I tend to agree. One popular ad this past week was Mitchell for the Ravens, the running back. He is active and willing to play. He's got super fast 4.3 speed. I don't feel comfortable starting him right back into it. I do think that you can start Gus Edwards and Justice Hill with a decent amount of confidence. Scotty's got Gus Edwards, and he knows that the goal line work seems to be his. So we know that the Ravens are a high scoring team, and a guy that gets all the goal line work, touchdown upside is absolutely there. Besides that, I don't think we have a ton of news and notable news this week. So we can start getting into the questions.
I mean, you got Kyler Murray and James Conner suiting up in the same week, which is newsworthy. I don't know how much light anybody can really shed on that fantasy wise, where anyone who starts Kyler Murray this week is really going to kind of be holding their breath that first series to see what type of rust is there. And I don't know if he's the fantasy scrambling quarterback right out of the gate that you're looking for to win you weeks. Same with James Conner. I've got him as well on ride for 1 week to see how that knee's looking, but all the reports have been very good about it. So that Arizona is going to get a lot of errors one way or the other.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, Scotty. I do think Kyler Murray is going to be good his first week back. I think this is more upside with Hollywood Brown. I put him.
If anybody can make him look good, I feel like the Falcons man, do they know how to make players look good for at least a week.
I put Hollywood Brown in the title for that exact reason. I think Kyler Murray brings everyone up. Trey McBride. We have a question from Paz about Trey McBride already, and I think it brings everyone with the Cardinals up. This is going to be good. If you were thinking about starting a guy like Hollywood or Trey McBride, I think you have more confidence now with Kyler Murray. I think some of these Cardinals are now trade for candidates because of Kyler Murray coming back. They're going to be a relatively high scoring team, and if you've been kind of benching Hollywood week in and week out, I think you can start him with a good amount of confidence. I think he's a top 24-ish wide receiver with top 10, 12 upside for sure. So let's start getting into the questions. Thank you for everyone coming by. Excuse me. Toss a like on the video. Smash that subscribe button. If you want to support the show, you can set us a super chat and we will answer your question right away. So I can't guarantee that the answer is going to be any better because we do answer every single one no matter what, but it does support the show. Scotty and I are grinding. Scotty came in with 20 minutes of notice and hopped to it to join us today. So let's get into right into Leon and Franklin coming in a tough spot with all my top players on bye. What a bad bye week. You're the Chiefs, the Dolphins. Need a QB and tight end. Any sleepers for those positions? Right now, I have Kyler and Taysom in my starting lineup. I think, Leon, you are in a really good spot with those two players. Taysom Hill has been on a roll. You grabbed him off waivers. That is awesome. I think you picked up the perfect sleepers. I don't think I would recommend anyone else besides maybe a Trey McBride. I assume Dalton Kincaid's owned in all your leagues. Dalton Schultz has been on fire as well. I think you can start him with good amount of confidence. Jake Ferguson is another tight end that I like. I picked up in a league where I lost Dallas Goedert, but I think Taysom Hill should be in there and should be a must start. Because he is so versatile. He plays quarterback, he plays running back, he plays tight end, he does it all. So I think Taysom Hill is in a really good spot. And I mentioned early on that Kyler Murray is in a top, 10, 12 quarterback spot for me this week with his with the matchup, with his rushing capabilities, and he has some good weapons as well. Any thoughts, Scotty?
No, I think that's it. When you're asking about any sleepers at the QB position, to roll out Kyler. As we discussed, so much question about what he's going to look like after this much time, but talent-wise, I mean, that's a really great bye week fill-in. And yeah, you kind of hit on every tight end, but I mean, Taysom is the ultimate gadget man, and there's a million ways he can get you points. So for a bye apocalypse like this one with the Eagles and everybody else on bye, I think you're doing fine.
You did well. GBP coming in, always coming in. Thank you for joining another Sunday. He says, I am 4-5 this week and a must win. Full PPR. I have no idea what to do. Please help me. Well, that's what we're here for, my guy. 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 2 flex. Okay. Start your entire lineup. We've got Bijan, Aaron Jones, Montgomery back off injury. We didn't mention him, but we will later on. Godwin, McLaurin, Deontay Johnson. Thank you guys so much. Montgomery back is something
some
that
options.
Any Jahmyr Gibbs owner is, just worried about Scotty. He got a ton of work while in his first few games. He was the guy to start. Now, since he was out, Jahmyr Gibbs was incredible. He couldn't be stopped. But now I do think Montgomery is going to be more active, more involved. But what do you do with Bijan, Scotty? Bijan has been the most brutally frustrating player to own. Between those 2 running backs, if you're starting one, I think I'm starting Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, they're all interesting names. I mean, it's Montgomery. I actually been quite a fan of Montgomery this year when he's healthy. And Bijan is a very sexy name. But out of those, I mean, Jones is still the stud. He's still the lead back there in Green Bay. And I don't think I'm at the point with either of these 2 guys, no matter how interesting they are, to say, oh yeah, sit down Aaron Jones, right? Who would have been a lot of draft capital early on, and he's been battling injuries, but I still don't see any reason why I wouldn't be starting him as an every week starter when healthy.
Yeah, the most difficult part, and I understand why GBP is so torn with this, is that the Atlanta plays the Cardinals. It's the easiest matchup of all time. If there's going to be a Bijan breakout show, It's gonna be this week. Like I should have probably tried harder to trade for Bijan in every league I'm in this week because of this matchup. But I think for the floor play coming back, he should have most of the backfield. I think the guy with the most snap share out of those 3 guys is going to be Aaron Jones. That's why I lean that way. So, but we have more questions because he has 2 flex positions. So we got to figure this out as well. He has Godwin, McLaurin, and Deontay Johnson. And from that list, I'm probably going to go with Terry McLaurin as my wide receiver starter. I mean, the other guys they're right in the mix there. Deontay has a really good matchup against Green Bay. And then Godwin against Tennessee. It's fine. I don't love to, trust the Tampa Bay Bucks, but I do think Terry McLaurin he's a guy that can be a ghost for a half, but still put up 80 yards and probably not a touchdown, but he's pretty much a lock for, 70 to 80 yards week in and week out. But so those are my 2 starts, Aaron Jones and Terry McLaurin. So got 2 flex plays, Scotty. Do you go with running backs or do you go with 1 running back, 1 wide receiver? Where do you lean between? You got Bijan, Montgomery, Godwin, and Deontay.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's really got a collection of
very average,
very similar upside down, downside players here, because you said, Godwin, Deontay Johnson, week to week, almost the same guys as far as they can look elite top 5, and they can also just kind of ghost on you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Montgomery could have a good game. So could Bijan. I mean, and running backs are independent. This one's really tough, actually. I just picky. I agree with you. Scary Terry, as you know, with me when I had him on my squad, I'm usually happy to roll him out every week because he usually does come through. He makes you sweat through the whole game, almost to the 4th, but he does come through. Oh, this is tough. The fact that you can pick any of these guys.
I think Deontay should be a consideration in full PPR leagues. Godwin gets a ton of targets too. These guys
gets a lot of targets too. I mean, we know that Mike Evans sometimes just gets his, 3 2 receptions for 8 yards and a touchdown, and that's how he gets his passes. But Godwin, I mean, I'd kind of put Godwin definitely at the top, high at the top of this list as far as like with the settings. But this is tough. This one, you could just kind of go with your gut because I don't think there's a clear cut answer here. But Godwin does get a lot of targets.
All right,
so.
we got to move on. So I think I'm
Good
gonna
question.
go. I'm
Lots
gonna
of
go
options.
Bijan and Deontay for my 2 flex spots. Scotty seems to be leaning Godwin and Montgomery. I don't know. I'm not sure, Scotty. What do you think?
I said no. You're starting Scary Terry.
But he needs
Aaron Jones.
Yeah, he needs a running back, a wide receiver, and 2 flex positions. We got to decide on.
Yeah, I said Godwin.
Godwin and
Godwin. Oh,
2
sorry,
flex.
two flex. Oh, okay. So we've got Jones, Godwin, McLaurin, and
we need one more guy.
Godwin let's say Bijan.
There we go. Okay, we got there. Took us a second, but we got there. Paz sending love from Brazil. Thanks for coming by. He's got Tank Dell and Jordan Addison, and then Hawkinson or McBride. So I did mention that this is an upside play for McBride with having Kyler Murray back, but I'm going to go Hawkinson. So if I want Hawkinson, assuming this is the same team, I'm not going to go to Jordan Addison. I'm going to go to Dell. So if it's 2 different squads, it becomes a little bit closer. But you know what? I still think I lean Tank Dell over Addison. Addison's been great, but I'm going Tank after that big week last week. Any objections?
Well, everything I'm wearing obviously gives me a bit of bias here, but the reality is, I mean, I'm taking Hawkinson, who elite and proven, over the exciting young guy of McBride, where you still got to see what happens with him back with another quarterback. But I gotta agree with you. I think like Tank Dell's on fire right now. I think Robert Woods has either been ruled out formally or he's basically limping out there.
He's not a consideration.
No. I just mean like the ball's got to go somewhere. And that offense has looked pretty good. So I think I would roll out. I'd do the same thing. I'd go with Dell, and but yeah, I'd be starting Hawkinson. He is their WR1. So.
Sounds good. Shout out to Stuart and Claire that have joined the chat. We will get to every single question as normal. Toss a like on the video while you're here. We got Alex coming in. Trade deadline week. If I can swing it, I trade Higgins for Devontae Smith when I have Hurts PPR. I know you guys on mound stacking, but considering the playoff schedule and got it out, what do I think? I love that, Alex. I am trading for Devontae Smith. If you can do that right now and swing it, absolutely accept, because Higgins is currently injured. He's not playing this week. Devontae Smith is on bye. So it doesn't matter if you don't need either. You're not going to have either player this week. So I much prefer Devontae Smith over T Higgins rest of season, especially when you factor in the injury. As far as Boyd, because we're on the subject of Cincinnati, I think Boyd is absolutely reliable in PPR leagues. There is that risk factor always, Antonio, that Chase is kind of just a decoy out there, and he's not his normal self. Scotty and I talked about it earlier that we are starting him with confidence. You have to start a Jahmyr Chase. Like it would feel like the silliest thing in the world if you bench Jahmyr Chase for a guy that you have a fringe starter like a Christian Watson, Jacoby Myers, Zay Flowers, these guys that really aren't getting that much work or have been very unreliable, and you have a Jahmyr Chase getting 15 targets like his normal self. So, but with T Higgins out, I do think Tyler Boyd is a very solid option. I bet you he gets in the end zone. I would probably take a look at that bet and see what the line is on a anytime touchdown from Tyler Boyd. So, Army member Eric LFG, let's go. If you do want to support the channel and you want to hit that join button, we do have a membership, and all really it is to just support Scotty and I grinding every single week, putting out videos. We will be changing up the video style. So if y'all are coming in, and we have trade deadlines right around the corner, so I'm going to give you my top 5 trade targets in each position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, maybe even defense. I can look at playoff schedule for defenses. I saw Scotty picked up the Chiefs in our league, and I think that's a super savvy move when they're on bye. So check to see if the Chiefs are available. And I would, if you have a kind of a spare bench spot, if your bench is as bad as Scotty's, you can drop pretty much all of them. You can just
finally had to let Robert Woods go. Hurts so much.
For whatever reason.
Owned in 7% of all leagues.
If there's any reason you're rostering Robert Woods like Scott, and you like the old wide receivers, you can absolutely drop them and add Kansas City. Paz has mentioned that he has sent Pickens to purgatory after one negative yard game, traded him and Dak for Madison. Yeah, Paz, especially if you have two quarterbacks, if you got a good starter, I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. Madison should have all the work in Minnesota. I'm impressed with, how Madison's kind of grinded things out. He's kind of similar to like a Rachaad White, although Rachaad White's been better as of late. I still kind of view them in that same range where they're nothing special, but they are going to get a ton of work. So I don't mind that trade at all.
He's got the volume play. The Vikings really have to. With Kirk gone, they really have to improve their run game.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been almost comical at times if you watch these games when they hand it off. But they have to. They can't expect that Dobbs is going to be putting up 320-yard passing games like Kirk was doing to try to keep us in it. So they're going to have to run.
Yeah. I will say as well that the Vikings have, played well, and they've kind of battled to a playoff spot. So they really want to win. Dobbs is going to be a grinder. They're going to try to fight till the end. So that's what you want.
And their schedule is good.
Is great. The
next four, you got 4 out of 5 that are 4 out of 5 are favorable matchups. So that better chance of a good running fantasy stat line if you're not getting blown out from the start.
Yeah. Pacific time, the games are too early. Yeah, I feel that. Anyone, on the West Coast, that is early games when you have to get up at 6:30 before the time change. Now 7:30 for these early games.
You're not doing that for the Patriots, Indy.
I would not wake up for that game, but here we are. But thanks for coming in now. Anyways, it's still early for you at this time. So we already answered your question, Leon, so we will skip that over. Stuart from across the pond, thank you for coming in, Stuart. Good evening, gents.
I like this one.
Well, one question, simple one: Will Levis or Kyler Murray? Will Levis really impressed his first start. Not as good his second, but I still think he's got a ton of upside.
It's a lot closer than I think people would think, because you think this is a really simple answer, but I wouldn't say it is. I still think Kyler would be my pick.
It's still Kyler for me.
It's Kyler, but this is a real discussion just because any quarterback who comes out, throws 4 touchdowns and makes DeAndre Hopkins relevant again, there could be fantasy points on the table this week.
There could be, and I do think Will Levis is a start in more 2 quarterback leagues, or if you are just in dire straits on from the waiver wire, if you had a Mahomes type, but I would rather start Kyler Murray. I think with the matchup and everything and his weapons in his first game back, with his rushing capabilities, I know I mentioned in my video about Kyler Murray that coming off an ACL, maybe he doesn't run as much, but there's still that chance that he does. And if he does, that's just free points. Will Levis doesn't run a ton. He has a big arm, and he's got those bomb plays to Hopkins in there that obviously Kyler doesn't have. But I still go Kyler Murray just with his rushing upside, and it could backfire. And Will Levis could be, the next Justin Herbert. He looks like he very much could be, but
either of these plays could backfire.
I think I go.
It is what it is, and I think the body of work Kyler Murray does have when healthy, I'd be taking that over hoping that a quarterback that most people didn't know the name of 3 weeks ago, and will come through with another 4 touchdown performance. So risk on both, but I'd be rolling out Kyler Murray as well. I am in one.
So
actually.
Leon, if so Kyler Murray was the question again, where we're talking about Kyler. So most quarterbacks are available in an 8-team league. So I would go obviously Dak Prescott, Herbert, Jared Goff. I would even consider like a Brock Purdy type guy, Lamar Jackson, those guys over Kyler. But for me, he's pretty high up. I think it's closer for Scotty, just with his confidence with Will Levis. But I think there's not too many quarterbacks this week I'm starting over Kyler Murray that are going to be available on waivers. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So
Yeah.
let's see here. Oh, I went back up to the top. I must have missed a couple here. Paz fell asleep on the hammock. So we're going with the Viking tight end Hawkinson and Tank Dell, Paz, if you're still awake. But it's okay if you're not, living the good life in Brazil.
That soothing Landon host voice.
I would
ASMR coming at you.
I could be if I would be in Brazil right now, I would leave football behind and not even lose an ounce of sleep over football.
It is summer in Brazil right now. It's glorious.
RG coming in full PPR, projected to lose by 6. Very good information to know. Start 2 of Gibbs, Brees, James Cook. Different pool. He's got a full PPR projected to win. Hopkins, Godwin, Spears, and Cook. So my start 2 in the first question is going to be Brees Hall for sure. And I think I go Jahmyr Gibbs over James Cook. James Cook hasn't really been that good, and I know that Montgomery is back, but I still think there's going to be a bigger role for Jahmyr Gibbs than there was with Montgomery back before his injury, if that makes any sense. So I'm not going to start James Cook if I can avoid it. What about you, Scotty?
It's closer
or do you,
for me.
you like James Cook? It's a pretty good matchup against Denver, obviously.
Yeah, against Denver, it's I feel like you at least kind of know you're getting with James Cook. I wouldn't mind waiting out 1 week, starting James Cook, and then actually trying to keep an eye on how that backfield shifts out now that there's more complexity to it. So against Denver, I wouldn't mind suiting up James Cook.
Okay, so Scotty goes Brees and Cook, and I go Brees and Gibbs. But Brees is the must play, even in a tough matchup. Or not a tough matchup against. It's not a tough matchup against Raiders. It's a good matchup. And then start 1 for the flex. Hopkins, Godwin, Spears in a full PPR league. I am gonna go with Godwin over Hopkins. I assume Scotty's just picking his guy Hopkins because he has.
Oh, I'm picking my guy Hopkins. Guy is on fire. Had to hold out all those weeks.
Did he have a good game last week, Scotty?
He had an okay game, I think. I think he had
So how's that on fire? He's not NBA Jam rules. He needs to have 3 good games in a row.
The week before.
Yeah, that's not. He's no longer on fire.
That's pretty good. Okay,
he's no longer on fire.
What's Godwin been putting up?
That's actually a fair.
You want to go down that road and tell me over the past 3 weeks who's on fire?
Well, I'm not saying he's. But I'm not saying that Godwin's on fire.
Last week he had 60 yards receiving on 11 targets, so it was only 8.5. But by comparison, he's on fire compared to what he did the whole first half of the season, right?
All right.
He had 33 points in our league the previous week.
I know. Congrats. Claire's coming in here. 10-team league, half PPR. Pick a wide receiver 2 and flex. Deontay, Gibbs, Godwin, Lockett. 4-5 record in this league. Currently starting Lamb as her wide receiver 1 and Ramondre and Saquon. So I don't know how Ramondre finished today, but I am. I'm. My phone was recording me texting my mother while I was in that little spiel, in case we wanted to revisit how I don't think that Hopkins is on fire. Let me see what Ramondre did.
I'm sure your mother will find that fascinating.
She will indeed. She absolutely will. She's been dying to know what I thought of DeAndre Hopkins. And let's see. So Ramondre did okay, putting up 88 yards, 3 receptions.
20 rush attempts.
On 20 carries. That's great. So doing okay, probably, Claire. And with Lamb as your wide receiver 1, you should be in really good shape. So for a wide receiver 2 between Deontay, Godwin, and Lockett, we've gotten lots of Godwin and Deontay questions. I'm going to go with Deontay. And for your flex spot, oh boy, I think I'm good to go away from Gibbs, even though I still do really like him. Between Godwin and Lockett with a kind of limped, banged up DK Metcalf, who hasn't really been that good. I think I go Godwin in a plus matchup, but it's It's close. You know what? No, we'll go Lockett. Let's go Lockett against Washington. It's a good matchup, and then we can stop giving out Godwin advice.
It's hard, it's hard betting against Lockett. The man that people put down so often, and then he surprises you again and again.
Yeah.
Stop being such a surprise eventually, I guess, right?
Oh, we've got a super chat from Mackenzie. Starbucks on him for not showing up. Says great work, both of you. So thanks, Scotty.
Cheers.
Thank you, Mackenzie. And I will absolutely get some Starbucks. Maybe we'll get some skip the dishes out to my place. Do they even do that? I assume they do. I don't really skip the dishes anywhere. So yeah, thanks, Claire. Appreciate you coming in every single week. We have Stuart asking a Gabe Davis question. This is an interesting one. Gabe Davis is one of those guys that has been either so good or so bad week in and week out. Would we start Gabe Davis this week? Currently has Deebo Samuel, Deontay Johnson at wide receiver. Very good ones. Jacobs and Henry and Montgomery at running back. Also very good option, Stuart. I'm not sure about Montgomery's usage. But basically Montgomery or Gabe Davis. And I think they're both so different of a play. Montgomery's going to be a very good floor play. I bet you he gets in the end zone. I think I might bet anytime touchdown for Montgomery. So
yeah,
I need a floor play.
No, I get where you're going with this, and I agree completely. I mean, Gabe Davis is the ultimate like week winner or week loser type wide receiver. When he goes off, it's like he gets 2 touchdowns, and he looks elite. And then the rest of the weeks, man, is he a vanishing act in that offense? David Montgomery's going to eat. He's going to get yards. He's going to get a touch. I feel also like he's probably going to get a touchdown. Maybe he won't, but yeah. He's definitely the floor play there because Gabe Davis has no floor. He can put up 20 points or he can put up 1.8.
0, literally
close matchup.
I do think Gabe Davis has a good week this week, but that's just a gut feeling. There is actually a stat, Scotty, and it's funny that when Gabe Davis is started in over 70% of leagues, he busts. When he is started in over or under 30% of leagues,
I start him religiously in our league of record. I feel
every single week.
Pain. It sewers me on matchups when
we've talked about Gabe Davis in the past. You have to start him every single week, and I did a video on him. You have to start him every single week because you're going to miss out on the big weeks, but he also hurts you a lot in those middle games where Scott's.
I feel like that's something that's not really talked about in fantasy as much as you can look at season ranking and they love putting up this guy is here in the whole season. But, this is why I fall in love with some players more like the Derrick Henrys and the things of that nature is because there's some players that when they go off for 42 points. And it's they're the best thing ever. But then the next week, if they come in with a 3.2, I find predictability with maybe they don't have many 35-point weeks, but if they can get you that 10 points more often than not and still come in around the same at the end of the season, I feel like there's always so much value to having players that you're pretty confident they can get you to that 10 points instead of being will it be 40 or will it be 0.8?
Yep. A running back with 5 attempts that gets 2 touchdowns, Scott.
He was supposed to cover for Connor. He did it. Connor's back, baby.
David's coming with the question.
The Gus bus did it.
Okay. So I need a wide receiver, running back, and a flex. Who do I start? Henry, Madison, Olave, or DK? Please help. So your running back, I think, has to be Derrick Henry. I assume that's who you're talking about. So as far as your wide receiver between Olave and DK, I think I go with Olave, but against Washington, I just did a video on DK Metcalf and I did put him as a top 10 option this week, but he has not been very good. It's a great matchup, but that's about it. But Minnesota's defense has been pretty good. It's in a dome. I think I go Olave over DK. Would you flex? Would you flex Madison or DK, Scotty?
Yeah, I think it's tough it's sad to say. I think I still would flex DK just because I mean, the Vikings run game thus far this season has been a literal, like, comical display of ineptitude. And that's coming from a diehard Vikings fan. But it's like I expect them to get a 1-yard loss whenever I see it's not play action and they're actually handing it off. So I hope that changes. But
Yeah.
DK has been very inconsistent. But I wouldn't put down money this week that Madison has like a respectable fantasy line, even with all the usage, just because they have to prove they can run the ball. They didn't get a rushing touchdown until like, week 6 or something.
Yep. So, yeah, I think I go, DK, Olave, and Derrick Henry. So I like it. The New Orleans defense is pretty good. Shout out to everyone in the chat here. We got Stuart still around, Alex, John, Chubby Goat, Matt. Toss a like on the video, smash that subscribe button if you're new. If you just found us out of nowhere, let me know. I want to know if you're this is the first time tuning in, because I still don't know how people find this sometimes.
It's always interesting
for live streams. But Alex is asking about Shakir. He is a wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills, in case anyone didn't know. Do I think his role is gonna be cut back when Knox comes back? I don't think so. I think Shakir is gonna be a kind of boom bust play. I'm gonna look at his. I did pick him up in a league just as a kind of a dart throw. He's not a guy you can rely on. If you can't rely on Gabe Davis, who's a much better wide receiver than Shakir, you can rely on him either. So, yeah, I think he's a spot start. He plays on a good team. He has touchdown upside. I don't know when Knox is expected to come back, but I mean, he got 4 targets, 4 receptions, 6 the week before. That's when he had that kind of breakout game. I think he kind of does go down to maybe a couple targets, 2 or 3 targets each game. And if it's one of them's a bomb, you're going to be happy. But if they're not, you're going to come to 4 for 57 like he did last game. So I think if you can leverage and try to sell him, especially if he has a good game this week, you absolutely do that. So
I have to assume that you probably got him for very little. So
he's a waiver wire ad.
Yeah, that's a waiver wire ad. So
if
you can get something, call it a win.
Yeah. So Swift was on bye when I have Kyler and Fields on IR. So I don't remember what Paz was talking about, but either way, I hope you're enjoying that hammock, my guy. So Geek Mill, what's up, my guy? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to you as well. It's 12-team PPR. Zay Flowers or Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton has been kind of sneaky good.
Yeah.
On a bad team. Buffalo's defense is not what it used to be. It's probably going to be a closer game than Buffalo Bills fans want.
It's going to be neck and neck. There's a reason I picked up the Kansas City defense on bye, because my starter every week is the Bills, and they're just too hurt. It's not even that their scheme's bad or anything. They're just too hurt.
But now we have the Baltimore Ravens playing the best defense in football, the Cleveland Browns. So not a great matchup either. I
think I'd go Cortland Sutton, honestly, against this banged up Bills defense. I could see Sutton actually having a pretty decent day. I don't know that I'd want to line up Flowers against the Browns, because you also have like Odell talking constantly over the past few weeks about how he's not involved enough. Like there's always that element with the Baltimore game as well of who's going to get the ball, because Lamar is going to pull it down and run a decent amount. So
now at least this week they're going to keep their starters in likely the entire game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, and it is the time of year where you need to start thinking about weather. I just looked it up, and it's supposed to be 38 and partly cloudy, so it's not going to be overly cold. It's going to be a bit cold in Buffalo, but in the same game, it's going to be same pretty much 49 degrees and partly cloudy. So it's not a ton different, 10 degrees Fahrenheit difference between the two. I don't think that's really enough to
both outdoors, both cold
to be a huge factor. Minimal wind, a little bit more wind in Buffalo, 15 miles an hour versus 8 miles an hour. But I obviously prefer the talent of Zay Flowers, and I think he's great. But I think I agree with you, Scotty. Cortland Sutton is where I would go.
Like you said, he's been sneaky good, at least recently, I've found. So as someone who held Rashad Bateman as a keeper for a couple seasons, playing Baltimore wide receiver roulette at the best of times is hard. So when you have another option who I think is pretty clear cut as the main guy going against a very leaky defense, I don't know. I'd go that way.
Cheesehead is asking about Chase or JSN, and we talked about Chase a little bit
Oh,
earlier. I think
7-Eleven, if those are the options.
you have to go with Jahmyr Chase over JSN. Jackson Smith-Njigba is a great rookie wide receiver. You have DK back, Lockett's there. Like, there's two weapons. If you start JSN, you're hoping he gets in the end zone where Chase can do it, being the only guy there with Higgins hurt and out for the game. That back injury is sure a factor, and there's a world where he's a decoy, but I think they're going to kind of get him all the drugs he needs. He won't feel an ounce of pain in that game. So I think Chase is a must play, must start if you have him, especially when your other option is a rookie for the Seahawks. So that's where I'm going, and Scotty agrees.
Plug in the pharmaceuticals. There you go.
Claire's rostering 3 quarterbacks right now in a 10-team league, half PPR. Baker, Purdy, Kyler. I would drop Baker Mayfield. And she's leaning towards Purdy, but the Kyler hype is high. Hesitant his first game back. I would start Brock Purdy this week over Kyler Murray. Claire seems worried. She seems like she's, not bought into the Kyler hype, and because you're leaning that way and you have Debo back for the Niners, it should be a good game. It should absolutely be a back on track game for the Niners. So Brock Purdy, I think, is a very good start for you. I do think you can drop Baker Mayfield, even though he's projected for 17 points, the most of those guys. You still can probably drop him and add like a flyer on the waiver wire. Claire, let us know who's available on waivers. Go by kind of most rostered. Like, you can maybe add George Pickens if he was dropped, or you can add Jacoby Myers or Christian Watson, some of those guys, or even like your backup running back. If you have an Austin Eckler, you can add the backup, or you can add that's kind of where I would go. I wouldn't roster 3 quarterbacks in a 10-team league. It just kind of limits your upside as far as the positional players. So roster backup running backs and roster some flyer wide receivers is where I would go, especially when you have Purdy and Kyler.
Claire is a shrewd fantasy player, clearly, because as much as we've talked up, Kyler, if you have him and it's a bye week or something, sure, it's a great option to roll out. But I find hype goes pretty insane in fantasy football, where there's nothing guaranteed this week. Like, Kyler just getting through a whole game healthy probably be considered a win for the Cardinals. I'm a big fan of starting Brock Purdy with his weapons back, because the thing with Brock Purdy is a guy like Christian McCaffrey, there is always the option he does essentially a 5-yard pass and it turns into like a 75-yard passing play with a score at the end, right? Like, you add in Deebo Samuel as these weapons come back. I love having a guy like that a check down can turn in to a ton of fantasy points. And I don't see that with, the other guys listed here. And that's why I'm so high on Brock Purdy, because he can turn very little into a lot of fantasy points just because of the guys around him. And that's, you want that every given play, right?
Absolutely. Alex is talking about some stashes available in their league. Roshan Johnson, Rico Dowdle, Latavius Murray, Dalvin Cook, Michael Carter, Elijah Moore, Rondell Moore, Robert Woods, Jameson Williams, Juju. Well, Scott would tell you to add Robert Woods. That's who you should add. Just kidding, Alex. Don't do that. Before I would have said Roshan Johnson, but I don't. That Bears team is just so bad. I don't think Roshan really deserves a roster spot right now. Elijah Moore is interesting. Rondell Moore is also interesting with Kyler Murray back. Jameson Williams is a guy that he's a second-year player. Really thought he was going to be good. One of my top prospects coming out, but he got hurt early on. He was suspended again. Are you ever going to feel comfortable starting him? Probably not. Even if Amon-Ra goes down, it's not like Jameson Williams is going to walk into a ton of work. Whereas running backs, if the starter goes down, the running backs just have so much opportunity, which, leads me to more of a, Dowdle, and or one of, Dalvin or Michael Carter is kind of, even Roshan or Dowdle maybe is where I would go because of the talent. I think both those guys are maybe the more talented of the bunch. Scotty, any ads or
Yeah,
stashes
I
you'd
mean,
like
these
from that?
really are, it's a list of dart throws for various reasons across the board.
Sure.
One of them may hit for sure. I think you hit the nail on the head pretty well. I mean, the guy like a guy like Dalvin Cook on waivers tells the story of what it is, but it's something that unless there's a horrible stretch of injuries there, I don't know how there would be any real fantasy value week in and week out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's there's some good names here. I mean, you got Juju, you got all these guys. I mean, Elijah Moore. I know I tried to grab him just as a stash in our 16 team league, and I got punted by somebody using a decent amount of fab to get him. So like, there's a reason people are stashing these guys. But
I've got Elijah Moore. I've got Elijah Moore in a couple leagues, and I have to
yeah,
start him
and
in a couple leagues.
that's somebody I did try to stash when he was
Mm-hmm.
available, but someone really wanted to stash him more because they actually emptied a decent portion to get him. So I wouldn't say no to Elijah Moore to see what happens there. It's a really interesting offense that could start performing a lot better. But yeah, all these guys at this point, I'd have them on the watch list more than necessarily stashing them, and be looking to pull the trigger on if you see just you need something to kind of show you that, which will of course make it harder to get them. But I wouldn't be dropping somebody and using a lot of resources to try to really get any of these guys, honestly, right now.
Sounds good. Matt's coming in. Laporta, Kincaid, Josh Jacobs, start 2. Also, Hollywood Brown or Ridley at PPR, wide receiver. So I'm going to start Josh Jacobs. As much as I like the tight ends, I mean, of the 3 guys from starting, one of them is going to be the running back, just floor, ceiling, everything in between. You got to go running back. But those,
I don't think we got to talk that one too much through because I agree with you. I think Kincaid looks terrific. Laporta is having a great season, but I mean, it's so hard to sit down a literal starting RB1 when you have the option to do so.
And between Kincaid and Laporta, it feels like it's impossible to get this one right. They both have good matchups. They're both really breakout, standout rookie tight ends. I think Kincaid would be my option, but it's a coin flip really between the two. I mean, besides Mark Andrews, I mean, they're one of the top 2-3 tight ends this week. So, I mean, Kincaid by a little, but I think Laporta is completely viable. So really tough one there. It's too close to call. As far as Hollywood Brown and Ridley, a wide receiver, I do have upside and hopes for Hollywood Brown, but I think I go Ridley in what's going to be a pretty good high over-under game. Even if it's a tough defense against San Francisco, I think I go Ridley. Scotty, do you have an opinion on the two?
No, I agree with you. But
okay.
Yeah.
It's close. Marquise Brown, I think, is very interesting.
Close.
Yep. Chubby Goat is asking, Chris Godwin is sick. Do I swap him for Gabe Davis or JSN? Chris Godwin is sick. I don't think I saw that news come through.
I didn't see that one either come through, though.
So let me, so if you're, and this is what I say a lot of times, if you're worried about Godwin, I think Gabe Davis or JSN are very fine upside plays. Again, Gabe Davis is a guy that has busted many times, but I think you can absolutely start him. So if you need a floor play, go JSN. If you need a huge upside play, Gabe Davis is the guy. JSN is kind of a good 1-for-1 swap in for Godwin, honestly. But Gabe is a big play guy. He could have a massive game.
Yep, absolutely. Can get you the 20, can get you the 1.
Yep. John Fenton. We got what, 10 minutes, 11 minutes left. We'll get to
11-minute warning here.
We'll get to every single question. Toss a like on the video while you're here. Scotty and I are going to go rapid fire, and then we could talk about our own lineups if we have any questions between the two. Still have a few starters on IR. Need a flex between Christian Watson and Quentin Johnson. Full PPR. That is gross, John. You get the award for the grossest question of the day. Congrats. Woo! I'm going Christian Watson, I think.
Yeah, I'm going Christian Watson too.
Should I try to trade Bijan for Pollard 1-for-1? I think both guys have a good week this week. Alex, I don't try to do super lateral trades like that. I think they're both good. Pollard is getting more opportunities where Bijan's just not getting the work. So Yeah, it's close. I think it's very much personal preference if you like or have a good feeling about one or the other.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very lateral. Lots of
uh,
questions.
Stuart, appreciate the love. We always like to give our input, our suggestions, what we would do. Not to say it we're always right, but there's a rhyme or reason why we pick the players we do. I don't know the answer right as I'm reading the question, but I figure it out between logic or gut feel or whatever. Cheesehead's asking Chase, Jason, Flowers, or Watson. Pick two. Chase and Jason for me.
Yeah, that's close, but
Gator
I think that's
fan, would you trade Aaron Jones for Saquon? Saquon is getting volume, but Jones already had his bye week. Um, so yeah. I mean, they're both very fine. The talent wise is Saquon Barkley's on a really, really bad team, and it's really gross to start Saquon Barkley. It just feels like he's going to get banged up again, injured. But honestly, Aaron Jones has been injured most of the season.
and he does have Dylan there as well.
He
So
does. Barkley doesn't really have anyone.
they have almost nothing besides
Yep.
Saquon Barkley.
Yep.
So
This week was really bad for Barkley against Dallas, but pretty much every matchup's bad for the Giants. I would maybe lean Aaron Jones this week, even at Pittsburgh, a tough matchup as well. But again, Gator fan, this is a very lateral trade. There are going to be a couple kind of spots different each and every week. If you prefer Saquon because of the talent and the PPR kind of potential, go with Saquon Barkley. He's a very good player. And yeah, thank you. Not my first time, but my first question. I love the advice I get from y'all. So thanks for coming in. I love people just watching if we're entertaining or help you guys here and there. So I'm glad, David, you finally answered or got a question and had a tough start said. So appreciate the support. Really, really do. Buckstar TV, I see every single week. Thanks for coming in. Two questions. Full PPR projected, almost the same score. Javonte or Gibbs in the flex. Oh my goodness. I might just turn off the stream right now. Also, Ridley, Tank, Dell, Sutton, or Amari at wide receiver 2. Appreciate y'all.
man, he's got some real lateral options here.
This is really close. I think I go Amari Cooper, even against a tough matchup against Baltimore. Just because I think he's the best wide receiver of your options.
Yeah,
I know
got good options.
Tank had a great game. What earlier, Ridley's been kind of hot and cold. Again, kind of a tough matchup again for Ridley, but I think
I'd be starting Cooper still.
Yeah, I think it should be a competitive enough game that Amari gets the work. And as far as your other question, Javonte or Gibbs, it's gross. I think Javonte is finally starting to get that work, really starting to get the work and getting healthy enough where we want to see him perform and do well. I think he's going to get more opportunities than Jahmyr Gibbs. With Jahmyr, you're going to have to rely on efficiency and him to take one of those screen passes to the house or breakaway run. So if he doesn't get one of those, I think it's going to be a Javonte week over him. So the probability,
I'd be rolling out Javonte myself. I think for the reasons you just said. I mean, he's healthy and exactly. He looks like more of a lead back right now.
Yeah, Cheesehead, I think we answered this already. Tank, Flowers, or Watson. I think I'm going Tank. I think I'm going Tank.
Yep, I'm going Tank as well. I think he's establishing himself kind of as the lead, and the other lead wide receiver is out this week. So
KJ takes the title away from who? Who was it? Oh, John, for the grossest question of the week.
Grossest question of the week, yeah.
Devin Singletary or Zach Charbonnet, full PPR.
Wow.
I think I go Charbonnet, just pure talent over opportunity. Zach Charbonnet, you can't really trust. He's not that like Ken Walker is still going to get more of the work, but I think I go Charbonnet. I don't know. It's gross. I hate Devin Singletary.
Yeah. No arguments for me on that one.
A Gator fan. Sit one, full PPR. We're almost time for kickoff and almost done our questions. Dave Davis projected to win by 20. Scotty, you can take this one. Or by 10 to 12, I mean.
That's tough. I would almost roll the dice and just sit down Dotson. run with like the huge risk, but big win. But they're projected to win, so maybe I'd sit down. Maybe I'd sit down Gabe Davis to try to protect the floor. I'm not helping here.
All you, man. Whatever you think. No, it's all you.
All
You
right,
got this one.
I'm starting James Conner, and I'm sitting down Dotson.
All right. Claire, are you benching Browns defense versus Baltimore? I am, but she says not great options available. Teams like the Packers, Falcons in one league, or Bucks and Falcons in another. So I'll just start the Browns if you have those options. I personally am starting the Jets defense over them, but I picked the Jets up a couple of weeks ago in knowing that this was going to happen. So I rostered two defenses. So but if you don't have, I wouldn't drop the Browns for one of those teams. So just roll with the Browns. If a sneaky play here, if you think the Ravens are going to score a lot, just bench the Browns and just have a no defense, because it's possible that they get negative points for you, Claire. Unlikely, really unlikely. I think you end up getting a 2 or 3 by the end of the day. But yeah, I'm just going to roll.
And sometimes with defenses, though, I do think when you're talking about a good defense against a good offense, I do think sometimes people overreact a little bit too. And like you said,
Sure.
if you're holding one of the elite defenses and you started against a really strong offense because you don't have really viable other options, you still just need a pick and a fumble and maybe 2 sacks. And even if a lot of points are scored in most formats, you still finish with a decent defensive line, defense line. That's the thing about elite defenses. They usually have playmakers who will get sacks and might get a pick and force a fumble. They might still give up 38 points against the offense, but in most leagues, I find it's weighed. So as long as they get 1 pick six or something, or get a fumble and fall 5 yards into the end zone, then you're fine. You get your defensive points regardless, even if it becomes a 40-point. If they give up 40 points or something,
totally,
you still finish with a strong defensive line. So I find people overreact sometimes. They're can't start them against that offense. Then in the first quarter, there's 2 sacks and an interception. And it's you're fine. You're fine. Yep. No matter what they score, you're going to be all right.
So thank you, John. Thanks, KJ, for the grossest question. So that's funny that you mentioned that, John. Appreciate that, KJ. So thanks for coming in, everyone. Thank you to Scott, producer Scott, for dropping in very last minute. Come by every single week. I actually was traveling in Marathon this weekend, so it just so happened that I was here. Appreciate y'all. Good luck this week, and stay tuned on the channel. We got top 5 targets in each position coming out. So good luck, y'all. Good luck, Scotty.
Skol.
See you later.